go packing heat for protection. But one night, we were dancing in a circle, and this guy pulls out a 6-shot revolver and he aims it to my chest. He pulled the trigger twice.
He should have been killed, but miraculously, the gun jammed.
That's what happens. Had 5 friends murdered, 4 overdosed, and 1 suicide.
Ambulance crews saving another life in Cabramatta as an overdose victim collapses on the stairs of the shopping centre car park.
It just goes to show you don't know where your time's up. Kids think it's cool now, growing up on the street, looking bad, getting tattoos, running with, doing bad things, thinking it's cool. But you know what? It leads you to places either dead or in jail.
In 2004, after 9 years selling and taking drugs, Tony Hoang's life was in the balance. As you'll see later, he not only survived, he found redemption. Coming up, the gang that terrorised a suburb and the cop who brought them under control.
There was territory, there was revenge, and most of the violence, we often wouldn't even know what the catalyst was.
By the early 1990s, the Vietnamese community was through the refugee phase, but criminal gangs still formed, mostly from the young Vietnamese.
So it was natural for them to bond together, and that's how they, I suppose, became a communal group at first.
The most brazen and violent gang called themselves the 5T. They were a classic street gang.
At its peak, probably 40 identified senior members. They were aged between 16 and 19. They escalated in criminality from robberies to extortion to drug distribution. They had long, dark hair. They often wore black suits and had the gang walk and had a significant tattoo of 5 Ts, a big T with 4 smaller Ts underneath as their identifying tattoo.
Their leader, Tri Minh Tran, was a natural.
He was quite a good leader from a criminal perspective. He was very, very charismatic, even to the police.
Tran was an old head on young shoulders, able to disguise crime as a part of doing normal business.
And what they would do is walk into restaurants, take up a seat at a table, and have a meal. And then simply leave and not pay for their meal. Over a period of time, they would say to the shop owner or to the restaurateur, if you were to pay us $100 a week or thereabouts, we won't come into your shop or to your restaurant, so we won't deter customers. And also, we'll provide you security. We'll look after you. The 5T evolved into probably the controllers of the street-level marketplace for the distribution of heroin. And Cabramatta became notorious for that, and under their control. I don't think it was any mistake that happened. I think it was well planned because they had already had a criminal structure available to those that wanted to provide the 5T with that product.
With no Australian family, for Tran and the senior 5T members, the gang was their life. It made criminal investigation difficult, sometimes illogical, as motive was often non-existent.
There's lots of money being played, so there was territory, there was revenge, and most of the violence, we often wouldn't even know what the catalyst was. It might have been, as they would say, revenge, it lays dormant in the heart for some time, and it's like a fire, and the coals will die down, and it'll only take us to see you again, and the fire will reignite and we will attack.
For 5T leader Tran, revenge was deadly.
The 3 men stood no chance, gunned down at point-blank range as they opened the front door.
Several times each person has been shot in the vicinity of the head.
One of the dead was the leader of the infamous 5T crime gang. The man had twice been acquitted of murder charges.
There's a lot of speculation that violence could escalate, tenfold as revenge, etc., the gangs would take law into their own hands.
But what did happen was quite remarkable. The senior members sat down with the police.
Their explanation was that we're actually not bad people. We didn't come here to cause this trouble. If you're going to dismantle us, you've got an opportunity now. It's a short window because, in their words, we're a snake without a head. We have no brain, we have no direction. But soon a new head will grow and we'll be strong again. So best you do it now. It was a long road and it took 2 to 3 years, but all but by 97, the 5T in its form had been dismantled.
When we come back, a crime that perfectly fits the cliche, murder most foul. One family, 2 drug dealers, money laundering, and the man who died a horrendous death. Asian crime was hauling in millions of dollars. Drug syndicates were awash with money. The sheer volume of cash was causing problems.
The Australian Crime Commission estimates that at least $4 billion a year is being sent overseas, which is the proceeds of crime, predominantly drug trafficking.
When crime pays this well, there is no way of spending it without attracting attention. One Asian gang opened shop fronts for the sole purpose of laundering money.
We believe that this one small family business with their 4 shops moved about $300 million in about a 20-month period. The fact that this one small business, small family business, were able to move such a vast amount of money. The source of the money was almost entirely from drug trafficking.
The scam involved getting someone trusted to take the money out of the country. Someone who could avoid a search at the airport. Someone like an airline pilot.
The pilot would arrive at the premises, they'd stash the bags full of cash, and the pilot would then take it out of the country.
The pilot in this covert video is Tran Van Dang. As an airline pilot, it was a relatively simple matter for him to take the cash to Hanoi.
Yeah, what we see is Chinese organised crime and Vietnamese organised crime really working hand in glove with one another. We see that there is traditionally, of course, Chinese organised crime has been believed to have been based on sort of triad-type structures, quite hierarchical.
Money laundering is all about creating a cover story for cash. It's a process that at some stage needs the help of an innocent, someone outside the criminal world. When police were called to a house in Concord, they had no idea that money laundering was behind a horrific attack. In 2002, accountant Dominic Lai was getting ready for work. A courier knocked.
And it was answered by Dominic's wife. They said that they had a package for Dominic and displayed what appeared to be a parcel. He was then flipped over onto his front, where one of the couriers tipped hydrochloric acid over Mr. Lai's face. He also ingested a fair amount of the acid, and that went into his throat and down into his esophagus. It can only be described as a barbaric attack.
Police were baffled. Who would murder a decent, hard-working accountant in this way?
Very early on in the investigation, with very few leads, Dominic Lai's brother-in-law, Philip Ma, was spoken to. He went into hiding in fear of what had happened to his brother-in-law.
This is what happened.
Dominic introduced Philip to Yongki Tan, and Philip and Yongki entered into an agreement. The agreement being that Philip Ma was to launder some $800,000 on Yongki's behalf.
He won't loan the money because he see the money. He can't just buy broker land from that big money. He need to run through to the casino and get a check from a casino, put in an account and buy bought land.
Both Ma and his brother-in-law, accountant Dominic Lai, believed that the money had come from Yongki Tan's immigration business.
If you know the money from a job, I want to do loan the money for him.
The money had come from an ecstasy manufacture and distribution business that Yongki Tan had set up in a suburban restaurant.
Yonki was then responsible for the distribution of those ecstasy tablets throughout Sydney. He was selling them at 1 kilo at a time.
Not bad at $200,000 a kilo. Police had earlier caught Yonki Tan with a bundle of money. They confiscated $120,000 from the boot of his car. He received a $500 fine and a good behaviour bond. It also gave him extra motivation to turn cash into assets, hence his approach to Philip Ma. The police knew who they were after, but they needed access to the casino's world-class surveillance system to help track their key targets. Star City regularly works with the police to help detect and prevent criminal activity, and wanted to ensure that the operation was as successful as possible. This is actual surveillance footage of Yonki Tan at Star City Casino. Each week, Philip Ma would be given a rice bag full of money to launder. The idea was to turn the bag of money into a casino cheque and put the money into an account that Dominic Lai had set up for Yonki Tan. The plan seemed simple enough, except that Philip Ma was a problem gambler.
I've been there about, say, 3 or 4 days in a week. Most of the time lose them.
Place your bets. So 1 is Baccarat, place go to win. Place win, 8 of Baccarat. Yes.
Ma eventually was banned from the Sydney casino. To launder the money, Ma had to fly to Melbourne. As a high roller, the Crown Casino paid for the lot. Limos, food, booze and accommodation. And he lost thousands every time.
Every time looking about 200,000. Sometimes 150.
In 6 trips to Melbourne, Ma managed to turn $800,000 into $300,000.
I owe up and lose about $500,000. 500,000.
It was this that led to the acid attack on accountant Dominic Lai. Yonki Tan was furious and made it clear that Ma was next. Terrified, Philip Ma went to the police.
Because I'm very scared, Yonki Tan, if you murder me, the next one, he won't kill me, he won't chop me to pieces.
Police persuaded Ma to meet at Star City Casino with Yonki Tan. Also there that night was an undercover cop. This is the actual footage of that meeting. What the cops didn't know was that Tan's partner in crime, Emil Chang, was also in the casino. Seen here virtually circling the meeting, Emil Chang was a dangerous standover man.
You can see Emil Chang come in from the background and he leans over to Philip Ma and says, "I'll chop your fucking head, mate." He then walks off and leaves the conversation to finish with Yonki.
Suddenly, a murder investigation that started with the acid attack months earlier was gathering momentum.
Over a period of 6 or 7 weeks, we execute a number of search warrants, taking out each of these people in the drug syndicate.
The last person they picked up, Dax Satorre, loved a chat.
What did you think and feel about that?
My God just bugs me.
Whilst he was being interviewed for his involvement in the drug offences, he sort of let it slip that he thought he was going to be interviewed about something else.
He was in the news about the acid, someone being splashed with acid and all that.
By that, we
And
sort of
then
went,
they showed.
"Sorry, what was that, Mr. Satorre?" He goes, "Oh, I thought you were here about the murder." Immediately we went, "Well, hang on a sec. This is a significant breakthrough for us." So we questioned him about the murder. And Dax, during that interview, pieced together the whole events leading up to the attack on Dominic Lai.